I've always believed revenge is best served in silence, preferably with a deed, a lawyer, and a smirk. My name's Eli Porter, and I own a civil engineering firm that's handled a fair share of land and water development projects around Pine County. I've seen my fair share of small-town politics and entitled homeowner associations, but the Silver Ridge HOA still takes the cake. It started with something simple. I wanted to buy a small lakeside cabin for weekend fishing. The property backed onto Lake Eastridge, a calm blue body surrounded by trees and walking paths. My dad used to take me fishing there before the HOAs took over and started putting up private access for residents only signs. They didn't own the lake. It was county-managed public land, but they'd built a fence, set up security cameras, and started fining anyone they didn't recognize. Typical HOA power trip. So when a small parcel of land labeled Lake Reserve C went up for sale in a tax auction, I did some digging. It turned out to be a narrow strip of land that bordered the entire eastern shoreline, the only shoreline with practical vehicle access, docks, and boat ramps. It wasn't large, just about 6 acres, but it was all legally separate from the HOA's development. The previous owner had gone bankrupt, the title reverted to the county, and nobody in Silver Ridge had noticed it went up for auction. I bought it for $42,000, pocket change compared to what the HOA president spent on landscaping their so-called community garden. Act 1. Private property. We'll see about that. 2 weeks after the deed transfer finalized, I visited my new property with my pickup and a roll of "No Trespassing" signs. The HOA had been using part of my land as a walking trail for years, and their residents had even built a small wooden dock for their exclusive lake access. When I parked by the path, a woman in a sun visor and floral vest stormed over like she was about to make a citizen's arrest. "Excuse me," she snapped. "This is private HOA property. You can't park here." I smiled politely. "Actually, ma'am, this is Lot 15A, Lake Reserve C. I just bought it last month." She laughed. "That's impossible. This land belongs to Silver Ridge HOA. We maintain it." "Maybe," I said, pulling out my folder. "But maintenance isn't ownership." When I showed her the deed, her expression went from superiority to confusion, then fury. She huffed. "I'll be calling the HOA board. You can't just show up and claim land." "Good idea," I said. "Tell them to bring their paperwork." She stomped away, calling someone on her phone, muttering about trespassers. An hour later, 4 HOA board members and their security guy, a retiree named Bob with a reflective vest, arrived. They surrounded me like I'd just kicked over their clubhouse. The president, Craig Vance, was a thick-set man with a comb-over and a voice that carried like a lawnmower. "This area's part of our community property," he barked. "We've maintained the docks, the benches, the lighting. You're trespassing." "Then I guess you've been maintaining my property," I said. "Thanks for that," he sneered. "You can't buy HOA land." "I didn't," I said. "Your HOA doesn't own it. The county did. I bought it at auction. You're welcome to call your lawyer." Instead, he called the police. Act 2. "Sir, we have a property dispute." When the officers arrived, they looked tired before even hearing the story. It was clear they'd dealt with HOA complaints before. One of them, Officer Yates, listened to Craig rant about illegal occupation of community land, while I stood quietly beside my truck. Finally, Yates turned to me. "Sir, do you have documentation for this property?" I handed over the folder with the county deed, tax, receipts, and survey map. He studied it carefully, then nodded. "Mr. Porter's name is on the deed," he said. "Looks like this parcel was never part of the HOA's development zone." Craig turned red. "That can't be right. We've used this land for years." "Usage doesn't equal ownership," Yates said calmly. "If you've been using it without permission, technically you're trespassing on his property." The look on Craig's face could have curdled milk. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. He tried one last desperate jab. "Our residents rely on this dock for water access. You can't just take that away." I tilted my head. "Actually, I can. But I'm reasonable. We can discuss an access lease." The word, lease, made them collectively twitch. The cops shrugged. "Sounds like a civil matter to me. No crime here." They left. The HOA board glared at me, seething. Act 3. You'll regret crossing the HOA. I expected hostility, but the next few weeks exceeded even my cynical expectations. The HOA filed complaints with the county zoning board, alleging I was interfering with public utilities. Then they tried to claim the land was an environmental reserve. Both claims were dismissed after a quick review. Then came the pettier tactics. One morning, I found trash dumped across my driveway, bags of yard clippings and HOA newsletters. Another time, someone spray-painted HOA property across my dock. I installed cameras and caught Craig's vice president doing it. Sent the footage to the sheriff. The HOA had to pay cleanup costs and damages. Still, the board kept fighting. They offered me $60,000 to sell. I declined. They offered $100,000. I still declined. That's when they got truly desperate, and called in a county inspector to evaluate my dock for safety violations. When the inspector showed up, I handed him the survey. He blinked, looked confused, then chuckled. Wait, they built this dock? Yup, I said, without a permit, apparently. He nodded, jotting notes. Then they're the ones in violation. Not you. By the end of the week, the HOA received a county citation for unpermitted shoreline construction. The fine, $7,800. They had no idea how badly they'd stepped on a rake. Act 4. The water rights bombshell. Around this time, I decided to really understand the extent of what I'd bought. I hired my firm's survey team to check water easements, access rights, and any attached permits. What we found made my jaw drop. The Lake Reserve C parcel wasn't just a strip of shoreline, it included all the rights to the only water access points approved for boating, maintenance, and irrigation for the Silver Ridge development. When the HOA was first formed 15 years ago, the developer had filed for temporary easements from the county to use those docks for lake access. But when the developer went bankrupt and the land was foreclosed, those easements expired. Meaning, the HOA had no legal water access at all. And now, I owned the entire stretch they relied on. Their residents couldn't legally fish, swim, or launch boats from the lake without crossing my land. I laughed for a solid minute in my office. Act 5. The meeting. I drafted a polite letter to the HOA board, inviting them to discuss an official lease agreement for water access rights. The meeting was scheduled in their clubhouse, a brick building with too many, no smoking, signs and an air of forced civility. When I walked in, Craig looked smug. So you've come to your senses, he said. Something like that, I said. Let's talk business. I slid a printed proposal across the table. Water access lease agreement, Silver Ridge HOA. $500 monthly base rate. $50 per household annual maintenance fee. 10-year renewable term. Immediate cessation of harassment or interference. Craig read the paper, his face flushing with rage. You're extorting us. Not at all, I said. I'm offering you a chance to stay compliant. You see, I discovered that the HOA currently lacks valid easements for water access. You've been using the lake illegally. The county confirmed it. The room went dead silent. The treasurer, a nervous woman named Jill, flipped through her binder. Wait, if we lose lake access, half our community amenities are gone. Property values will plummet. Then sign the lease, I said simply. Craig slammed his fist on the table. We'll take you to court. I smiled. Go ahead. But remember, I have the title, the survey, and the county's letter confirming your expired easements. I'll countersue for back trespass and unpermitted construction. Should be fun. They didn't sign that day, but the panic was visible. 2 weeks later, their lawyer reached out. Act 6. The deal they couldn't refuse. After some negotiation, the HOA agreed to a 5-year lease at $400 a month, plus coverage for all property taxes and liability insurance. They didn't like it, but they had no choice. Without water access, their entire lakefront community marketing collapsed. I used the income to rebuild the dock properly, under my name this time, and posted a modest wooden sign. Greater than private property, access by agreement only. Residents still used the lake, but now they waved politely when they saw me. Funny how that works when you control the one thing they value. Act 7. When karma has a sense of humor. 6 months later, the HOA tried one more stunt. They filed a complaint with the state environmental agency, claiming my new dock was ecologically damaging. The agency sent inspectors, who, upon arrival, realized my engineering firm was the one that had designed half their flood control systems over the years. One of the inspectors even recognized me. "Eli Porter, you did the Pine Creek retention project, right?" "That's me," I said. He grinned. "Yeah, your plans were textbook perfect. I'll take a look, but if it's your build, I doubt there's an issue." Sure enough, the dock passed inspection with flying colors. The HOA got flagged instead for their unpermitted landscaping along the shoreline. I couldn't have planned it better. Act 8. The cherry on top. Last spring, a major storm flooded part of the lake. The county needed to run heavy maintenance equipment through the access road that went across my property. Guess who they paid for the temporary right-of-way? That's right, me. The county contract paid $18,000 for 3 months of access. The HOA tried to piggyback on the deal to help coordinate community repairs, but the county refused to deal with them since they didn't own the land. Craig came by personally, hat in hand, asking if I could work with them to improve the shoreline for residents. I told him politely that I'd consider it at a consulting rate. He left without shaking my hand. Act 9. Peace and profit. These days, the HOA leaves me alone. They pay their lease fees on time. Their residents still enjoy the lake, but every time they do, they're technically using my property. I even put up a small cabin and boat rental shed by the shore, completely within my zoning rights. Some residents rent kayaks from me on weekends. They have no idea their fees go right back to the guy who trespassed that first day. I guess it's poetic justice. Act 10. Reflection. Owning property near an HOA is like living next to a self-appointed government. Lots of rules, little sense. But the law doesn't bow to arrogance, it bows to paperwork. In the end, they called the cops thinking I was stealing their land. Instead, they learned I owned something far more powerful. Their access to the water that made their community valuable. Now, when I sit on my dock at sunset, watching the water ripple gold across Lake Eastridge, I smile knowing that sometimes revenge doesn't require shouting, fighting, or vandalism. Sometimes, it's just a well-timed purchase and a little patience. And every month, as those HOA payments hit my account, I remember Craig's words. "You'll regret crossing the HOA. Turns out, they're the ones who did."